Good morning, all the students of Government Physiotherapy College. I am Dr. Dhvanitsa, Principal Government Physiotherapy College, Surat. So today our topic of discussion is cerebral sign clinical examination. It is regarding this clinical examination and analysis. So we go to the next. So you must be knowing that whenever there is a cerebellar disorders, okay, you must gone through that there is a cerebral infarct or cerebellar damage is there or cerebral ataxia is there. So many neuro conditions which involves the cerebellum. Okay, in that, how to check the what is the type of disease, what are type of disorders, how to examine the cerebellar signs symptoms. According to that, we can come to know about the patient's present features, as well as also we can plan out the physiotherapy management according to the examination and analysis. So for that it is very important. Cerebellar, you know that it is only single in a quantity in the brain. Okay, we have the two cerebellar hemisphere, but cerebellum it is which also called as a chota dimag, okay, which is present over in this occipital lobe. Okay, beyond that your medulla oblongata and spinal cord starts. So it is very important structures you must be knowing about the clinical anatomy and physiology of the cerebellum. So before going through all these details, you must also refer the anatomy and physiology part of the cerebellum. Okay, thank you all. Then next we can start with the cerebellar clinical signs and examination analysis. So next slide we show, we start with that. So this is about the cerebral control of movement. Okay, so primary function of the regulation of the movement, posture control and the muscle tone. This is the main function of that. 1 minute, I click that. So we start with the beginning. So first I will go to the cerebellar control of movement. Okay, so you must be knowing about how the cerebellum is controlling the movement and also helpful for the posture control and muscle tone. Okay, this is the main function of the cerebellar control. Function of our comparator, either correcting mechanism also. It corrects the movements and also correct the errors which happens in the movement. It also performs the planning, sequencing and timing of the complex movement and pattern. Okay, it also plans sequencing. For example, we want to take one glass of water. Okay, so it helps to perform the planning. I am going to take the glass of water. Second is also take a sequencing. What the muscles I have to recruit first. Okay, I have to recruit first my hand muscles. Okay, or then I have to first I have to recruit my shoulder muscles to reach there. The elbow extensions. Okay, then my finger muscles to open up. Okay, then grasping the glass. Okay, and take it, then flexing the wrist, supine it, elbow flexion, taking to the mouth and do the pronation. Okay, with the finger clasping along with the radial deviation. So this type of activity can be done in this way. So this is a called planning, sequencing and timing of the complex movement. It does not include any jerky movements, it does not include any incoordinated movement. Okay, it should be planning, sequencing and timing. Next, control the ongoing movements, particularly timing and strength. Okay, when we are walking, we are jogging, we are also doing the two things set together. We are walking and jogging. Okay, that two things we are doing together. That also called, it is ongoing movements, particularly timing and the strength. It also controls the muscle tone. Therefore, it also controls the muscle strength of the co-contraction, relaxation and contraction of the antagonist, agonist, prime movers and fixator muscles. So with that, all the coordinated movements of all the muscles of the upper limb or lower limb or the body, okay, it gives you the coordinated movements. It controls all the rhythmic movements of the body with the synergetic coordinations of all the muscles of the body at a time to give you coordinated movements. Okay, it also have the role in clinical consequences of the cerebral lesions are ipsilateral, that you must be know. Okay, which are cerebellar signs or lesions are most commonly ipsilateral. This is the one side only, right? So I think you are clear with this cerebral control of the movement. Next is what are movement disorders of the cerebellum. Okay, in this slide you can see all the disorders of the cerebellum which happens due to lesion in the cerebellum, either because of a tumor or any lesions. Okay, it happens in the cerebellum. Okay, it leads to all type of features. Where you can go to the hypotonia, asthenia, ataxia, gaze disturbances, balance and equilibrium disorders, dysmetria, rebound phenomenon, dysdiadochokinesia, movement decomposition, tremors, incoordination, nystagmus, and dysarthria. Right? So all these photographs you can see in the background. Okay, these are all the disorders which happens due to the cerebellar lesion. Next is hypotonia. First is hypotonia. So what is hypotonia? That you must be knowing. Decrease in the muscle tone. Okay, due to decrease in excitation from the cerebellar deep nuclei to the region of the brain that excites the alpha and gamma motor neuron. So you can see this hypotonia. It is a decrease in a tone. It is not a zero tone. It is a decrease in a tone. Right? That you can see in this photograph also. Yeah, the patient's limb you can see when it is on the chair. Okay, how the hypotension discriminates. When you also the able to lift the arm, then you come to know that one side is weak. Okay, how it is going to drag up, is not able to maintain the hand. Okay, is going down. Okay, that is the signs of hypotonia. How you check it? Hypotonia. Second is asthenia. This generalized weakness of the inward side of the body. Complaints of the heaviness, excessive effort for simple effort, and early onset of the fatigue. This is a very common signs in asthenia. The patient will be so tired very easily, where the patient will fatigue so easily. Okay, not able to do repeated movements. Okay, he need to have a very much effort to do the simple activity. Okay, that is all happens to the inward side of the body. If you tell the patient to stand on a toe, tell the patient to do the planking, okay, or you tell the do the patient to push-ups, or you tell the patient to just lift the hand on the side, he having the so much effort to doing this movement, feeling the weakness, and after 2 or 3 repeaters he becomes so much fatigued. Okay, so you need to take a rest in between, then only you can go for the another exercise. This is another sign of the cerebral disorders. It is asthenia. Right? Next is the ataxia that you all know, incoordinated, drunken gait. Okay, what we call is classical sign of cerebral ataxia. It is a lack of coordinated order of the movement or sequence of the movement. Okay, the movement is not in a sequence, movement is not in an order. Instead of, for example, at the first example I told you, like grasping the glass of and you're taking the water. So first you need, I told you have to recruit the shoulder muscles, you have to give the command. Instead of shoulder, hand goes first, elbow goes first, grasping it and this going in coordinated movements. Okay, and his hand glass is reaching to the mouth before timing, after timing, non to the mouth, going beyond the mouth. Okay, this all type of incoordinated movements. It may be the upper limb or the lower limb. Okay, or the trunk. Okay, it involves all the part of the body. This is called ataxia. Appears in a tongue, extremity, head, mouth, tongue, most often with the gait disturbances. Multi-joint movement patterns are more affected than single joint movements. For example, this is the example of the multi-joint movements. Okay, when we're grasping the glass and taking the to the drinking the water to the mouth. Okay, the multi-joint movements, when you do the more than two joints working together in the any of the movements, okay, that is called multi-joint movements. Okay, so this is called ataxia. Clear example. It is also called as a drunken gait. When the patient walks, but incoordinated, arrhythmic tapping of the limbs because of the not synergetic or lack of the sequence of the movements in the old upper limb or lower limb muscles, so the movement become irregular, arrhythmic, unbalanced, uncoordinated movements. That is called ataxia. Next is gait disturbances. You must know this is the ataxic gait. It also can be known as staggering gait. It is also called a layering gait. It is also a drunken gait. Okay, there are different names for the one ataxic gait. It is characterized by uneven step length, irregular width of the walking base. Rhythm is absent, I told you, and feet are lifted too high in order to make the balance. They just lift and go there because they have the feeling of feeling fall. Okay, arms length is typically lost. They doesn't move the arm while they walk. Okay, so they feeling very incoordinated. So this is the disturbances. These are the features, characterizations of the ataxic gait. Step length, irregular width, rhythm is lost, feet are so high to lift up to clear the ground, and arm swing is lost. Okay, you can see that how to check that it is an ataxic gait or not. So there are different 4 types of tests I have given here. So first you can see the walking a straight line. Ask the patient to make a straight line and tell the him to walk on the straight line. Okay, with the foot in this position. At that time, when the next foot comes up, it goes to heel to toe gait. Heel to toe gait in a straight line. Second is a walking in a circle. You have to make a one big circle and tell the patient to walk on the circle line which has been drawn. Okay, so you have to check for the what are the steps are going beyond the lines draw. Okay, how the patient is managing the balance, able to not able to manage the balance. Make the patient to first walk in a circle. Okay, into and then a flow means clockwise and anti-clockwise. Okay, then you come to compare the both the sides of limbs of the lower limb. Third test is it is mentioned in the photograph. It is sideways walking. Okay, tell the patient to walk on the side. First, make the patient to stand straight. Okay, then tell them lift one leg and move to the side. After placing the one leg, you have to lift the another leg and make it on the side. Like that, you have to walk on side walking. And you have to do this test for the both the sides. Left side walking, the right side walking. So if there any limbs is more weaker than other, then also you can come to know here. So according to that, we can manage the plans of physiotherapy. Fourth test is a marching in a place. Patient is standing in a normal neutral positions, okay, and tell them to do the marching with the cross hand. Left leg is going up, right hand is come up. Okay, when the right leg is coming up, hip knee flexor at a 90-degree, then left hand is come up and right hand goes back. So it is in a cross direction of the upper limb synergetic movement also with the lower limb. This is marching in a place associated with the upper limb movements, swinging. Okay, this is a fourth test you can check for the ataxic gait. Next is the balance and equilibrium. Patients with having this cerebral problem, they must have this balance and equilibrium. Balance can be checked at the static level, also can be checked at the dynamic level. Okay, so we have to check the severe assemblies in the stance as well as the gait, but almost never fall. Okay, they may have the incoordinate gait, they will balance themselves by supporting anything, okay, but the chances of the fall are less. Presence of the posture tremors and sways will be seen when the patient is walking or patient is in static position. You are able to see the posture tremors and sway. Okay, patient not able to maintain the center of line of gravity within the center of base of line. Patient is not able to maintain the center of gravity within the base of support. So you can see able in static or dynamic position, you can able to discriminate between the postural tremor and sway, and also loses the balance very easily. Okay, when a patient falls, he applies the hands, trying to come up, and also will walk in this very unsway manner. Okay, there is a balance and equilibrium which may be seen in both static and dynamic. That also you can check on the two ways: either closing the eyes, okay, and make the patient to take static, and if you feel any disturbances when they're closing the eyes, and if you feel any disturbances, also you can check with open eyes and tell the patient to maintain the balance in one static position, or also you can find this way. Okay, there are two different type of tests you can find. If the patient is not able to maintain the balance even with the open eyes, okay, that is called cerebellar inequilibrium. The next is the dysmetria. Dysmetria, when a patient is able to reach something, okay, it loses the target. For example, I told you by drinking the glass of water, instead of going to the mouth, it goes to the nose, it goes to the side of the mouth, it goes to beyond the mouth, it can go to above the mouth, it can go to right side of the mouth. Okay, it's not going to the particular place where it should go. Okay, it's missing the target, and patient is going beyond the point or before the point. It's called overshooting the movement, or it is called undershooting the movement. Okay, this is called dysmetria. Okay, it is a two test we can done here. We make the patients to have a pen and tell the patient to touch some object and tell them to touch this on the opposite object, maybe the wider or opposite object also can be a shorter one. Another pen will be there. You tell the patient to touch the tip to tip of the pen on both the sides, or tell the patient to touch the back side of the pen to each side. Okay, and see how much he is able to do. Okay, therapist is holding, patient is holding, and tell them to touch. Or also you can even tell the patient to touch on my tip of the finger, or you can also tell them to touch my nail. Okay, like that. Or also you can tell the patients to make a round. Okay, I have to draw the round and I tell them to make a same round, overlapping, over correcting the same sentence on that. Okay, that also can be checked. Okay, or also you can check the dysmetria of the lower limb by making the patient stepping on the footprints, or the footprints will be drawn on the floor, and tell the patient to make a place of the foot on exactly on the footprints. Okay, but patient not able to make a judgment. The movements is, I told you, is undershooting or it is overshooting, going beyond the margin. is going above the margin or going within the margin. Okay, then it is all called as a dysmetra is positive for the upper limb and lower limb. This is the way how you check the dysmetria. Next is rebound phenomena. It is also very useful when you person is not able to make a judgment of the force. Okay, and the person's movement will be jerky, not able to control the movement, not able to stop the movement. Means agonist and antagonist muscles are not in synergetic movements. Okay, there is a asynchrony between the agonist and antagonist muscles. Therefore, when the agonist work will complete, antagonist not able to prevent it, so agonist muscle will overwork. Okay, and the movement goes beyond the point once the resistance removed. Okay, inability to regulate the force, there is onset of force delayed in the antagonist muscles, delay in initiation of the movement, and difficulty in movements that requires a burst of speed. Was initially you tell the person to bend, there will be difficulty when initiation movement. Once the movement is started, you are given the resistance, is giving the resistance, when the resistance has been moved off. Okay, the antagonist must have to contract and prevent the all-certain movements of the agonist that is absent in this. Okay, or the delay in this. They are not able to contract immediately to prevent the agonist muscle action. So when you pushing that, you're taking the hand towards the face of the patient, you're giving the resistance. When you leave the resistance, the movements will be stop in the normal patient. But when there is an antaxic patient, it moves and hit over the patient face or hit going beyond the range of movement because antagonists are not able to immediately contract and stop the movements once the resistance is moved off. That is called rebound phenomena. It also can be checked in the lower limb when the patient is lying on supine or in the prone lying. You can flex the knee and give the resistance same way like you are giving the resistance to the elbow and give the resistance, and when you leave the resistance the leg movement should be stopped. It's not stopping and knee is flexing beyond the range. That is called rebound phenomena. Dysdiadochokinesia, everyone knows, is rapid alternating movements patient is not able to do. Okay, means example like the supination, pronation. Okay, repeated supination, pronation, supination, pronation. They make it somewhat rapid in the patient. Supination, pronation on your command. The patient is not able to do. He will do like this, so much pronation together or so much supination together, or 3-4 supination and 1 pronation, 3-4 supination, 1 pronation, like that, or 3-4 supination and 1 pronation, 3-4 supination, 1 pronation, 3-4 pronation, 1 supination. So he will not able to do in rhythmic way. Okay, same way it also can be checked in the lower limb. Okay, touching the patients from the repeated movements of the heel, seen to the knee joint, seen to the knee joint, placing the heel on the scene of the tibia and to the knee joint, scene of the tibia and the joint. Also can do on the scene of the tibia and the malleoli, scene of the tibia and the malleoli. So like the repeated movements you can do, the patient not able to maintain the movement because movement will be very slow, not able to do rapid way. He will be doing very slow. Okay, or quickly loses the range, not able to, not going to a full range and coming back to again in the half range. Okay, and this rhythm will be lost. I told you, repeated pronation, repeated supination instead of doing the alternating movements. It is because of the inappropriate timing of the muscle activity. Okay, because there is a not command coming from the cerebellum and not regulating the movements we told you initially. Okay, therefore this type of asynergetic movements, okay, it happens in the muscles. Therefore muscles not able to work sequentially, planningly and making the activity properly. This is another example, is a dysdiadochokinesia. Next level signs of SM is a movement decomposition. Difficulty performing the movement in one smooth pattern and may perform the movement in a sequence of the steps. Movement becomes separated into individual components. Okay, for example, at the same example, we take grasping the glass of the water, taking to the mouth for drinking the water. Okay, patient will divide this movement. Okay, in small components. First, he take this movement, then he take the force. First, he do the movement of shoulder, he stops. Then he do the movements of the elbow, then he stops. Then he do the movements of the wrist, fingers, then stop, then take the movement of the wrist, supination of the forearm. Okay, then you take the movement of the shoulder, then take to the mouth, and then repeatedly do this same movement of pronation, wrist extension, relay deviation, and then take the hand up from the shoulder. Okay, so divide the movement in a small component in order to complete the movements. Not able to do in a one way. It divides the movement and do the perform the movement. Same way happens when the patient is doing the lower limb movements also. Lower limb also having the same thing can be happen. Patient is able to, I want to get up from the chair. We also adjust the foot first. Okay, coming out of the chair first, then giving the weight on the chair, then slowly leans forward, then give the weight on that, slightly lifting the buttocks first, then knee straight, and then getting up straight. Okay, so divide the movement in one small components. Okay, there's another signs of the cerebellar signs, and another sign of cerebral damage. Next is a tremor. Okay, this we have the find the tremors. Okay, in the cerebellar patients is an intentional tremor. Intentional tremors means you already know one is a static tremor. Okay, when the hands or limbs or extremities are in static and the patient do the repeated involuntary movements of the hands or the mouth or maybe the legs or the small joints. Okay, but in this type of cerebellar patient you have the intentional tremor. Patient will the rest. Okay, there is no tremors, but when he start taking any movement of the upper limb or the lower limb, okay, it immediately the tremor starts. Okay, usually enhanced during the terminal goal oriented movements. When I'm reaching to the glass, this is my terminal goal. When I'm starting the movement, then the tremor start. But when I'm near to the glass, this movement will increase like this. Okay, and when reaching to the mouth is my end target, then movement will increase. Okay, the terminated goals, okay, the movement will increase. Okay, right, this is that the tremors is available, but it is in a slow manner when reaching to the target. But when towards target, we are near to the target, the movement increases. Okay, they have the frequency of 3 to 5 hertz. When maintaining the posture, even posture tremors also same. Make the patient to stand erect, standing or sitting. Also it leads to the tremor. One static position when you maintain, you also find the tremors. Right. Incoordinations, that is a special test for the incoordinations. There are so many equilibrium tests, non-equilibrium tests. Okay, you must be knowing about the so many testings already. You learn in your syllabus of the second year. So many tests are available for the equilibrium as well as the non-equilibrium. You can find the single leg stance. You can find there is a walking or the one by one alternate walking. Okay, with the wide steps. Second, you can find either the toe. I told you the heel to toe gait pattern. Okay, the next is the knee to seal to knee. Shin of the tibia to the knee joint, dragging the legs from the shin to knee. Okay, there is also one of the in non-equilibrium test when you do in the supine. This is also the one of the non-equilibrium tests when you touching the tip of the finger with the tip of the thumb. Okay, this is also non-equilibrium test when you touch the patient's hand, then you touch your nose. Okay, finger of the patient to the nose of your, then also the direct touching the nose of your patient. You also make the patient to touch the tip to tip of the toe of your fingers. Okay, or make the fingers parallel to yourself. This all the non-equilibrium tests which are not doing in a weight bearing position. And there are the equilibrium tests what we seen before, which we done in the weight bearing positions. Okay, this all are tests also used to identify the incoordinations. Patient may take more time. Patient may decompose the movement in small patterns, or patient may be trying to doing the movement but not able to maintain the target, or there will be the incoordinations between the movements, not able to touch the nose, touching the different size. We have to repeat the test for 6 to 8 times. Okay, and then we have to give the rest, and then again you have to check the for 6 to 8 times against the same test. We have to do this test in the 3 sessions. If the 60 to 70 repetitions out of 10, 6 to 7 movements are abnormal, then we can call it as incoordinated movements. Next is the nystagmus. Okay, nystagmus are the two types: physical nystagmus and also it is called the pathological nystagmus. Physical nystagmus is a form of the involuntary eye movements characterized by alternating smooth pursuit in one direction and zigzag movements in another direction. Okay, that is called physical nystagmus. That is a normal nystagmus. Involuntary eye movements characterized by smooth pursuit in one direction and in other direction. The one figure is looking on the one side and immediately looking on the opposite side. That is when you are able to look on that side. There is slight eyeball movements, that is called physiological nystagmus. But when there is a pathological nystagmus occurs without feeling its normal function, it is a pathologic. When deviating from that means going to the one target and coming back, okay, but not able to come to the neutral positions after moving the leg, eyes are moving or shaking, that is called pathological nystagmus. Here we can find the three ways. Horizontal nystagmus, we can make the patient to look on the horizontal way, tell the patient to look on upward vertical way, then also tell the patients, okay, rotate your eyeballs. Okay, if when you do the movement, okay, after doing the movement, if your eyeballs are not coming to a normal position, okay, that it is called nystagmus is present. Okay, horizontal way, you have to tell the patient, you also tell the patient to move the eyeball in vertical way, you also tell the patient to move the eyeball in a rotational way. Okay, and you doing the movement on the side chart is saying if the eyeball is not moving in the both the eyeball in coordinated way, one eyeball is moving either in the one direction, either eyeball is moving in the other directions, and then horizontal, vertical, torsional deviation of the eyeballs. Okay, not both the eyeballs in the same line, same directions or same time. Okay, then it is called nystagmus is present. That is called pathological nystagmus. Okay, physical nystagmus, it is depending on the stimuli. Okay, pathological nystagmus, it is a peripheral. Physical nystagmus depending on the directions. Okay, it is a pathological, it is a central direction. Okay, is a stimuli, it is given the peripheral in pathological, and depending on the direction, it is always a center direction in pathological. These are three. Another things we will find in the cerebellar patients with the cerebral signs and symptoms. These are the motor speed disorders resulting from the neurologic injury characterized by the poor articulations. Okay, it is due to some disorders in the nervous system which handles the control over the tongue, throat, lips, and lungs. Okay, this is the normal articulation parts which require when you produce the any speech. Okay, we need the coordinated movement of the tongue as well as the coordinated movement of the lips, as well as the voice comes from the glottis, from the ear to the throat. Okay, and also we have the very regular rapid coordination with the breathing also when we speak. Okay, so if there is a not coordinated movements or non coordination happens between this all the parts together, like lips, then tongue movements, then the breathing patterns, okay, then the voice outputs and the breathing lungs exercise, lung movements, which is giving you expression. When you are speaking, you keep your hand, then you find that your air is coming out when you speak. When you speak, okay, it air goes out. So you can feel the air movements coming also when you speaking. So that is also coordinated activity of the lungs. If this is not in coordination, the patient's speech will be affected. The patient will be speaking, okay, but it won't be clear because there will not be coordination of the lips and as well as the tongue along with the breathing, going air out and in. That will be incoordinated. Therefore, speech will be affected. Those sentences will be not clear. Okay, and person will be speaking between the break in between. Okay, because you already know, because it divides always the movements there is a speech also in a composition, small parts, and then he try to speak. Okay, this is an example of the dysarthria. Okay, these are all about taken from the Darcy, and this is a video Riyad Susan Sullivan book that you commonly refer. So I think you are all aware about now about the cerebral signs and symptoms. Okay, we make a one revision on that again. First, we have seen about the all the parts we have covered here is hypotonia. Okay, already we check it, not able to live even a single movements, or there is a weakness in the movements. Okay, patient performs very slow or not able to sustain the movement. Second is asthenia. Okay, that we check. Okay, patient is doing the movement. Once if the body is weak, a patient tires so fast. Okay, not able to sustain movement for a longer time, not able to complete the movements even within the normal time also. Not able to complete the movement, not able to go to full range also. Ataxia, there is already discussed in detail. Okay, there is a disturbance gait. Ataxia also can be found in upper limb, tongue, lower limb, face, mouth, head, tongue, all the patterns. And there are distinct ataxic gait patterns. Different four names for the ataxic gait: staggering gait, reeling gait, Drunkard gait also. Okay, this is how you check the ataxia in straight line, walking circles, sidewalks, matching in the place. Also, you can check the balance and equilibrium. We have the severe disturbance in the balance, static balance, dynamic balance. You have to check, as well also to check for equilibrium, non-equilibrium, and equilibrium test for that. Okay, patient have to check for the eyes closing, eye opening, and then you can compare with the vestibular disturbances or cerebral disturbances. Even the eye opens, is not able to maintain. Okay, that is a cerebellar disturbances, cerebellar equilibrium. This material we also check for the upper limb and lower limb, pen to pen, hand to hand, finger to finger, making circle, overwriting, okay, on words, and the stepping for the lower limb. Okay, it goes beyond the target. Rebound phenomena also, antagonist muscles not able to contact on time, so agonist muscles overactivity. There is a difference of the speed, initiates a movement, and lastly stopping the movement and goes beyond the target movement. This Coconessa rhythmic rapid movements we saw in detail, not able to do in rapid way. Patient does very slow, or if it doing slow, then also make a repetition of the same movement again, making the mistake, not doing alternating movement. It can be checked in upper limb as well as in the lower limb. We have to give different targets for the lower limb. Movement decomposition already discussed. Movement will be divided in small compositions and the patient completes the movements. Okay, not able to do the movement in a one sequence, right? Tremors also we see it is an intentional tremor in patient. When the starting the movement is difficult, when the starting the movement, tremors it happens in small frequency. As reaching to the target, tremors increases, okay, and going back again decreases, but reaching to the target and placing the glass on the table, then again it increases. When reaching to the target endpoint or a certain point, tremors increases in the frequency. It also seen in the posture also when the patient is standing straight. In coordination that I already told you, equilibrium test, non-equilibrium test, equilibrium test can be done in a standing or weight bearing positions, single leg standing, tandem walking, okay, and the non-equilibrium test are already so many tests you can know in a equilibrium, side stepping, side walking, making a circle, so many weight bearing exercises you can do in that different form. And non-equilibrium test you can do in the supported position, lying position, sitting positions, okay, like touching the fingers, finger to nose, hand to hand, okay, hand to finger, finger to parallel, shin to knee, knee to shin, okay, like that all the test that is for coordination, equilibrium, non-equilibrium. Next, a nystagmus we saw, okay, form of the involuntary eye movements. When you move on the eyes on the one side to other side, immediately there will be mild nystagmus, okay, in the normal patients or normal persons, it is called physical nystagmus. But when the nystagmus occurs but without feeling its normal function, eye is moving on the both the side but eye is not able to come to normal position faster or within a time, that is called a pathological nystagmus. In this, we have to tell the patient to move the eyes in horizontal, vertical, or torsional way, and then you can see the photograph in side way how the discoordination occurs between two eyes. One eye has come back, otherwise not returned to the normal position after these movements. Okay, then it is called nystagmus is present. Okay, pathological nystagmus is always stimuli from the peripheral and direction of the movement. This is a central pathological. Dysarthria that you told always speaking disorders because of the incoordinate between the lungs and the glottis, speech muscles, mouth as well as tongue, okay, and the lips. There will not be in coordination between all these parts, so the speech will be altered. This is called dysarthria. Okay, these are the all covers your this lecture. Okay, this is about cerebellar signs. Okay, and this assessment and examination of the cerebellum. Okay, fine. Thank you all.